I need to tell you something that will make you judge me. I know it will. But I also know that somewhere out there, someone needs to hear this story. Someone who feels invisible. Someone who's forgotten what it's like to be seen. So here it is, the truth that destroyed my perfect life and somehow saved me at the same time. My name is Claire, and at 42 years old, I fell in love with someone I should never have even looked at twice. Someone forbidden. Someone who whispered, "This is wrong," even as he kissed me for the first time. And you know what? He was right. It was wrong. Completely, devastatingly wrong. But it was also the most real thing I'd felt in 20 years. If you've ever felt invisible in your own life, stay with me. This story isn't pretty, but it's honest. And if you've ever wondered how good people make terrible choices, well, you're about to find out. Let me take you back to where it all began. Not to the kiss, not to the affair, but to the slow death I was living every single day in my beautiful house with my successful husband and my perfect son. I woke up every morning at 6:15. The alarm didn't even wake me anymore because my body had learned to anticipate it. I'd slip out of bed without disturbing Richard, who slept on his side of the mattress like we'd drawn an invisible line down the middle years ago. When had we stopped touching? I couldn't remember. It had been so gradual, so subtle, that one day I simply realized we were roommates who happened to share a last name. The bathroom mirror showed me a stranger every morning. 42 years old. When had that happened? When had the soft skin around my eyes started crinkling? When had my neck started showing those fine lines? I'd stare at myself, trying to find the 25-year-old bride who'd been so sure she was marrying her soulmate. She was gone. Erased by time and disappointment and 1,000 small abandonments. Richard barely looked at me anymore. Oh, he was polite. Always polite. "Good morning, Claire. How was your day, Claire? I'll be home late tonight, Claire." Every conversation was a transaction. Every interaction was scheduled. Tuesday night was his golf club meeting. Thursday was his poker night. Friday he worked late. Saturday he golfed again. Sunday we had brunch with his parents, where I sat silently while they discussed stocks and politics and everything else that made me want to scream. Our son, Josh, was 19 and in his second year of college. He lived on campus but came home on weekends, usually with his best friend Daniel. At first, Daniel was just another college kid cluttering up my kitchen, eating my food, leaving wet towels on the bathroom floor. Just another responsibility in a life full of responsibilities I never asked for. But then something shifted. It was a Saturday in late September when I really noticed Daniel for the first time. Not as Josh's friend, but as a person. He was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, actually doing the dishes without being asked. Josh was upstairs gaming, and Richard was at the golf course, as always. "You don't have to do that," I said, startled to find someone helping without being nagged. He turned and smiled. God, that smile. It was so open, so genuine. "I know. But you cooked for us. Seems only fair." He had these deep brown eyes that actually looked at you when you spoke. Not through you. Not past you. At you. "That's very thoughtful," I managed, feeling strangely flustered. Most of Josh's friends just leave their plates on the coffee table. "My mom raised me better than that," he laughed. "She always said, 'Daniel, you treat people's homes like they're sacred spaces.' Plus, I like doing dishes. It's meditative." We talked for 20 minutes while he washed and I dried. He asked me about my life, my interests, what I liked to do. When was the last time someone had asked me that? When was the last time someone cared about my answer? "I used to paint," I heard myself saying. Before Josh. Before marriage. I was actually pretty good. Had a few pieces in local galleries. Used to. His eyebrows raised. "Why'd you stop?" The question hit me like a punch. Why had I stopped? "Life got busy," I said automatically. The lie I'd told myself for 2 decades. That's sad, he said simply. Not judgmental. Just honest. You should start again. Life's too short to stop doing things that make you happy. 23 years old, and he understood something my husband of 20 years never had. The irony wasn't lost on me. After that day, I started noticing Daniel more. The way he'd help carry groceries without being asked. The way he'd ask about my day and actually listen to the answer. The way his eyes lit up when he talked about his philosophy classes, his dreams of teaching, his complicated relationship with his own father. We'd have these conversations in my kitchen, sometimes for hours, while Josh played video games upstairs and Richard worked late at the office. Just talking. That's all it was at first. Just talking. But talking can be dangerous when you've been silent for so long. Your husband doesn't know how lucky he is, Daniel said one evening. We were alone in the kitchen again. It was becoming our routine. Our space. What do you mean? I asked, though my heart was already beating faster. To have someone like you. Someone who listens. Someone who cares about ideas and art and real things. He was chopping vegetables for the dinner I was making, and he stopped to look at me directly. Josh talks about his dad like he's never home. Like he's always working. If I had someone like you waiting at home, I'd never want to leave. I should have shut it down right there. I should have said something appropriate, something motherly, something that reminded both of us of the 20-year age gap and the fact that he was my son's best friend. Instead, I felt my cheeks flush and heard myself say, "That's sweet of you to say." The kitchen suddenly felt very small. I mean it, he said softly. You're not like other people's moms. You're real. Real. When was the last time I'd felt real? When was the last time someone had seen me as a person instead of a role? Not Claire the wife. Not Claire the mother. Just Claire. Write in the comments if you've ever felt invisible in your own life. If you've ever wondered when you stopped being a person and became just a function. Because that's where I was. And that's where the danger began. The next few weeks were intoxicating in a way I didn't fully understand yet. Daniel started coming over more often, sometimes even when Josh wasn't home. He'd text me, "Need help with anything around the house? I'm free this afternoon." Or, "Making a coffee run, can I bring you something?" Richard never noticed. He was too busy with work, with golf, with his own life that didn't include me anymore. And Josh? Josh was just happy his best friend liked hanging out at his house. But I noticed everything. The way Daniel's hand would brush mine when passing plates. The way his eyes would find me across the room. The way conversations that should have taken 5 minutes would stretch into an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. We talked about everything. His dreams. My regrets. Philosophy and art and music and all the things that had been dead inside me for so long. He introduced me to new bands, new books, new ways of thinking. And I found myself changing. Waking up earlier to put on makeup. Choosing outfits more carefully. Laughing at jokes. Feeling things. One afternoon, Daniel showed up with a gift. A set of professional paints and brushes. "You said you used to paint," he explained, looking almost nervous. "I thought maybe you could start again." I stood there in my kitchen, holding this gift from a 23-year-old boy who saw me more clearly than my husband ever had, and I felt something crack open inside my chest. Tears started falling before I could stop them. Hey, Daniel said, alarmed. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you." "You didn't," I managed. "It's just, no one's done something like this for me in so long. No one pays attention to what I actually want." He stepped closer. Too close. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, see the concern in his eyes. "Then they're idiots," he said quietly. "All of them." That's when I should have stepped back. Created distance. Remembered who we were. Instead, I let him pull me into a hug. A friendly hug. A comforting hug. Except it didn't feel friendly. It felt electric. His arms around me felt like coming home after being lost for 20 years. We stood there for what felt like forever and no time at all. When we finally pulled apart, something had shifted. We both felt it. The air between us was charged with something dangerous and undeniable. "I should go," Daniel said, his voice rough. "Yeah," I whispered. But he didn't move. Neither did I. "Claire," he said, and the way he said my name made my stomach flip. Not Mrs. Henderson. Not Josh's mom. Claire. "I need to tell you something." "Don't," I said, because I knew what he was going to say and I knew if he said it, everything would change. "I think about you all the time," he continued anyway. "When I'm in class. When I'm with my friends. When I'm trying to sleep. You're all I think about." "Daniel, you're 23 years old. I'm 42. I'm your best friend's mother. I'm married." "I know all of that," he said. "Trust me, I've listed all the reasons this is insane about 1,000 times. But it doesn't change how I feel. It doesn't change the fact that when I'm with you, I feel more myself than I do anywhere else. It doesn't change the fact that you're the most beautiful woman I've ever met." Beautiful. When was the last time someone had called me beautiful? When was the last time someone had looked at me the way Daniel was looking at me right now? "This can't happen," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. "I know," he said. But he stepped closer anyway. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard, working late again. "Don't wait up." The irony was almost funny. My husband telling me not to wait for him while another man stood in my kitchen, looking at me like I was something precious. "He doesn't deserve you," Daniel said, seeing the text over my shoulder. "That's not your judgment to make." "Maybe not. But it's the truth anyway." He reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. Such a small gesture. Such a devastating gesture. "I should go," he said again. This time, I let him. After he left, I sat on my kitchen floor, holding those paints, and cried. Not sad tears. Not happy tears. Just tears of someone who'd been asleep for 20 years and was suddenly, violently awake. I knew I was in trouble. I knew I should stop inviting Daniel over, stop having those long conversations, stop letting myself feel things I had no right to feel. But I didn't stop. God help me, I didn't stop. Have you ever subscribed to a channel and then forgotten why? Don't let that happen here. Hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss what happens next. Because what happens next will shock you. The following Tuesday, Richard was at his golf club meeting. Josh was at his girlfriend's house. And I was home alone when the doorbell rang. Daniel stood on my porch, rain soaking through his shirt. Can I come in? I should have said no. I should have closed the door. Instead, I stepped aside and let him in. Let him cross that threshold into my home, into my life, into the space where everything I'd built could come crashing down. You're soaked, I said, grabbing a towel. What are you doing here? I couldn't stay away, he admitted. I tried. God, Claire, I really tried. But I can't stop thinking about what I said. I can't stop thinking about you. Daniel, we can't. I know we can't, he interrupted. I know all the reasons we can't. But tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me I'm crazy, that I'm imagining this connection, and I'll leave right now. I'll never bring it up again. I stood there, towel in my hands, water dripping on my hardwood floors, and I couldn't say it. I couldn't tell him he was crazy because he wasn't. I couldn't tell him I didn't feel it because I did. I felt it in every cell of my body. This magnetic pull towards someone I should never want. I'm married, I said weakly. To a man who doesn't see you. To a man who works 80 hours a week and doesn't know your favorite color or that you cry during sad commercials or that you hate the way he chews his food. Daniel stepped closer. I see you, Claire. Every part of you. And you're magnificent. I'm old enough to be your mother. You're not, though. You're 19 years older than me. My mom is 47. And age is just a number. What we have, this connection, this is real. You know it's real. He was right in front of me now. Close enough to touch. Close enough that I could see the water droplets caught in his eyelashes, see the rapid pulse in his neck, see my own reflection in his eyes. This is wrong, I whispered. I know, he said. And then he kissed me. The world exploded. That's the only way I can describe it. Everything I'd been holding back, every feeling I'd been suppressing, every desire I'd been denying, it all came rushing to the surface. His lips on mine. His hands in my hair. My back against the wall. 20 years of numbness shattering in an instant. We kissed like we were drowning and each other was air. Deep, desperate, devastating. His hands on my waist. My fingers clutching his wet shirt. Every rational thought evaporating in the heat of something I'd thought was dead inside me. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality came crashing back. Oh my God, I gasped. Oh my God, what did we just do? Claire. You need to leave. Right now. This can't happen. This can never happen again. But. Please, Daniel. Please just go. He looked at me for a long moment, his eyes full of hurt and desire and confusion. Then he nodded and left without another word. I stood in my hallway, touching my lips, feeling like I'd just jumped off a cliff. What had I done? I'd kissed my son's best friend. I'd cheated on my husband. I'd crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. But even as guilt flooded through me, even as shame made my cheeks burn, I couldn't deny the truth. For the first time in 20 years, I felt alive. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to Richard, who came home at midnight and went straight to bed without even asking about my day, and I stared at the ceiling, reliving that kiss. Hating myself. Wanting more. Knowing I was on the edge of destroying everything. Daniel texted me the next morning, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put you in that position. Can we talk? I didn't respond. What could I say? That kissing him was a mistake. It was, but it didn't feel like one. That it couldn't happen again? I wasn't sure I had the strength to guarantee that. For 3 days, I avoided him. Ignored his texts. Made excuses when Josh mentioned Daniel coming over. I threw myself into being the perfect wife, cooking Richard's favorite meals, asking about his work, trying to rekindle something that had been dead for years. Richard barely noticed. He ate dinner while checking emails. Said, "That's nice," when I tried to start conversations. Fell asleep on the couch watching television. He was physically present but emotionally absent, the way he'd been for years. On Friday night, Josh asked if Daniel could sleep over like old times. I wanted to say no. I should have said no. But Josh looked so hopeful, and refusing would require an explanation I couldn't give. Sure, I heard myself say. Of course. Daniel arrived around 8. Our eyes met across the kitchen, and the air crackled with tension. Josh didn't notice. He was too busy setting up his gaming system. Richard had already left for his weekly poker night. "I'll be upstairs if you need anything, Mom," Josh called. And then I was alone with Daniel again. The site of my greatest mistake. The source of feelings I couldn't control. "We need to talk," Daniel said quietly. "There's nothing to talk about. What happened was a mistake. A moment of weakness. It can't happen again." "A mistake?" He looked wounded. "Is that really what you think it was?" "What else could it be, Daniel? You're 23. I'm 42. You're my son's best friend. I'm married. There are about 100 reasons why whatever this is can't exist. But it does exist," he insisted. "You can list reasons all day, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm in love with you." The words hung in the air between us. In love. Not infatuation. Not a crush. Love. You don't love me, I said desperately. You're young and confused, Anne. Don't do that. Don't minimize what I feel. I've never felt this way about anyone. I've dated girls my own age. I've had relationships. But nothing has ever felt like this. Nothing has ever felt like you. Daniel, listen to yourself. This is insane. I'm your friend's mother. This is wrong on every level. This is wrong, he agreed, taking a step closer. But that doesn't make it less real. That doesn't make it less powerful. Tell me you don't feel it too. Look me in the eyes and tell me that kiss meant nothing. I couldn't. God help me, I couldn't lie to him or myself anymore. What I feel doesn't matter, I said instead. I have a life. A family. Responsibilities. To a husband who ignores you? To a marriage that's already dead? Claire, when was the last time Richard made you laugh? When was the last time he really looked at you? When was the last time he made you feel the way I make you feel? That's not fair. No, what's not fair is you wasting your life in a marriage that makes you miserable. What's not fair is you denying yourself happiness because of what other people will think. And what about Josh? What happens when he finds out his mother is sleeping with his best friend? What happens to our relationship? I don't know, Daniel admitted. I don't have all the answers. All I know is that life is short and unpredictable and precious. All I know is that I found something real with you, something most people spend their whole lives searching for. And I think you found it too. We stood there in my kitchen, the place where this had all started, and I felt myself wavering. Every argument I made was logical, rational, right. But logic and rationality had nothing to do with the way my heart raced when he was near. Nothing to do with the way I felt seen for the first time in decades. This will destroy everything, I whispered. Maybe, he said. Or maybe it will set you free. He kissed me again. And this time, I didn't pull away. This time, I kissed him back with everything I had. This time, I let myself fall. Leave a comment below telling me if I'm a terrible person or if you understand. Because I need to know I'm not alone in this. I need to know someone out there gets it. The affair started that night. After Josh fell asleep, Daniel came to my room. We didn't sleep together, not that first night. We just held each other, whispered secrets in the dark, kissed until our lips were swollen. It felt like being a teenager again, that mix of excitement and terror and pure, undiluted feeling. This is insane, I breathed against his neck. Completely insane, he agreed. And I don't care. We became experts at deception. Stolen moments when Richard was at work and Josh was in class. Text messages deleted immediately. Looks across rooms that said everything words couldn't. It was thrilling and terrifying and wrong and more right than anything I'd felt in my entire marriage. He made me feel beautiful. Desired. Seen. When Richard looked at me, he saw obligation. When Daniel looked at me, he saw a woman worth risking everything for. We'd meet at a small cafe across town where no one knew us. Hold hands under the table like teenagers. Talk about everything and nothing. He wanted to know every part of me. My childhood. My dreams. My fears. My regrets. And he shared himself with me just as completely. What do you want? He asked me one afternoon. We were in his tiny apartment, the first time I'd been there. His roommate was gone for the weekend. We had hours. Precious, stolen hours. What do you mean? From life. If you could have anything, be anything, do anything, what would it be? No one had asked me that in so long that I had to think about it. I want to paint again, I said slowly. Really paint. Not just dabble, but immerse myself in it. I want to travel. See the museums in Europe. Stand in front of the real masters. I want to feel passionate about something again. Then do it, he said simply. Paint. Travel. feel. I can't just. Why not? Why can't you? You have one life, Claire. One short, precious life. Why are you wasting it being miserable? Because I made commitments. Because I have a family. A family that doesn't appreciate you. A husband who takes you for granted. Josh is 19, almost done with college. He doesn't need you the way he used to. And Richard? Daniel's jaw tightened. Richard needs a housekeeper and a trophy wife for business dinners. He doesn't need you. He doesn't even know you. The truth of his words cut deep because they were right. When had Richard last asked about my dreams? When had he last really listened to me? When had he last made me feel like I mattered? Come away with me, Daniel said suddenly. Just for a weekend. Let me show you what life could be like. I can't just disappear for a weekend. Richard would. Would Richard even notice? Tell him you're visiting your sister. Tell him anything. Just come with me. Please. I should have said no. Should have recognized this was spiraling out of control. Should have ended it right there. Instead, I heard myself say, okay. That weekend in the mountains changed everything. No responsibilities. No lies. Just us. We hiked through forests. Made love in a cabin with a view of the stars. Talked until sunrise. He photographed me painting at dawn, and I looked at those pictures later and didn't recognize myself. I looked happy. Radiant. Alive. I love you, he told me on our last morning there. I know I'm young and I know this is complicated and I know I'm asking for something impossible. But I love you. Not in spite of your age or your situation, but because of who you are. The real you. The you I get to see. I love you too, I admitted, finally saying the words that had been building inside me for weeks. God help me, I love you too. We drove back to reality knowing everything had changed. This wasn't just an affair anymore. This wasn't just physical. This was real love, and real love demands acknowledgement. It demands a future. But what future could we possibly have? I started making mistakes. Small ones at first. Coming home with my shirt buttoned wrong. Smiling at my phone while Richard talked. Spacing out during conversations. Being too happy. You seem different lately, Richard commented one night. We were eating dinner in silence, as usual. More energetic or something. I started painting again, I said. Not a lie. I had started painting, filling canvas after canvas with colors that matched the chaos inside me. That's nice, he said, already looking back at his phone. Always his phone. Always work. Always anything but me. But Josh noticed too. And Josh was more perceptive than his father. Mom, can I talk to you? He asked one Saturday. Daniel was coming over later, and my heart was already racing in anticipation. Of course, honey. What's up? Are you okay? You've been acting weird lately. Different. Different how? I don't know. Happier, I guess. But also nervous all the time. And you keep checking your phone. He studied me with concern. Is everything okay with you and Dad? The question pierced right through me. How much did he see? How much did he suspect? Everything's fine, I lied. Your dad and I are fine. I'm just rediscovering some old hobbies. Trying to find myself again, I guess. Okay, Josh said, but he didn't look convinced. Just, if you ever need to talk, I'm here. I know Dad can be kind of absent sometimes. The irony of my son comforting me while I betrayed him with his best friend was almost too much to bear. That night, when Daniel arrived, I pulled him aside. We need to be more careful. Josh is noticing something's off. Or we need to stop hiding, Daniel said. Claire, we can't do this forever. Sneaking around. Lying. At some point, we have to make a choice. What choice? Leave my husband for you? Destroy my family? Watch my son hate me forever? Or stay in a dead marriage and be miserable for the rest of your life? Those are the choices, Claire. There's no third option where everyone's happy and no one gets hurt. He was right, but I wasn't ready to face it yet. I wasn't ready for the devastation that the truth would bring. So we kept going. Kept lying. Kept stealing moments. And with each passing day, the weight of it grew heavier. Then came the night everything fell apart. It was a Thursday. Richard was supposed to be working late. Josh was supposed to be at his girlfriend's house. Daniel and I thought we had hours. We thought we were safe. We were in my bedroom. Our bedroom. Richard's and mine. The ultimate betrayal. We were wrapped around each other, lost in our own world, when we heard it. The front door opening. Footsteps on the stairs. Richard's voice calling, "Claire? Are you home?" The panic was instant and absolute. Daniel grabbed his clothes. I threw on a robe. We were trapped. My bedroom is at the end of the hall. There was no way out without being seen. The closet, I hissed. Daniel dove inside just as Richard opened the bedroom door. "There you are," Richard said, looking at me with mild irritation. "I called you 3 times. Poker got cancelled. One of the guys had a family emergency." "Sorry, I was in the shower," I lied, my heart hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Just got out." Richard looked at me strangely. Something in my face. Something in my voice. 20 years of marriage, and he could finally sense something was wrong. "Are you okay? You look flushed." "I'm fine. Just hot from the shower." He stepped closer, and I held my breath. Daniel was 10 feet away in the closet. One wrong move, one sound, and everything would explode. "We need to talk," Richard said, sitting on the bed. The bed where I'd just been with another man. "I've been thinking a lot lately. About us. About our marriage. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening." "What about it?" I managed. "I know I haven't been the best husband. I work too much. I'm absent. I take you for granted." He looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw actual emotion in his eyes. "But I want to try harder. I want us to go to counseling. I want to fix this." The irony was crushing. 20 years of begging for his attention, his time, his love. 20 years of being invisible. And now when I'd finally found something real with someone else, now he wanted to try. "Richard, I love you, Claire. I know I don't show it. I know I'm terrible at this. But I do love you. And I don't want to lose you." I stood there in my bathrobe, my lover hiding in my closet, my husband finally saying the words I'd waited 2 decades to hear, and I felt nothing but horror and guilt and the weight of the destruction I'd caused. "I need some time to think," I heard myself say. Time to think? About what? About us? "Claire, what's going on?" "Nothing. I just need time." Richard stood up, confused and hurt. "Is there someone else?" The question hung in the air. This was my moment. My chance to tell the truth, to rip off the Band-Aid, to end the lies. "No," I said. Another lie. Another betrayal. Richard left the room, clearly upset. I waited until I heard him go downstairs before opening the closet. Daniel emerged, pale and shaken. "I have to go. I'll climb out the window." "Daniel, wait. We can't do this anymore, Claire. We almost just got caught. Your husband, he's trying. Maybe you should let him." "Is that what you want?" He looked at me with so much pain it physically hurt. "No. I want you. All of you. Not stolen moments and hiding in closets and lying to everyone we know. But I can't ask you to blow up your life for me. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, I said. Nothing about this is fair. He kissed me one last time. A goodbye kiss. Then he climbed out the window into the night, leaving me alone with the consequences of everything I'd done. Subscribe now if you want to know how this ends. Because what happens next will break your heart. The next few weeks were agony. Daniel stopped coming around. Stopped texting. Stopped existing in my life. Josh asked about him once, and I said I didn't know why he wasn't visiting anymore. Another lie on the pile. Richard tried. He really did. He came home early. Brought flowers. Made reservations at nice restaurants. Asked about my paintings. He was being the husband I'd begged him to be for 20 years. But it was too late. I didn't love him anymore. Maybe I never really had. Maybe I just loved the idea of him, the promise of who he could be. But the reality had never lived up to the fantasy. And now I'd tasted something real. Something passionate. Something that made me feel like a person instead of a role. I couldn't go back to sleepwalking through my life. I was painting in my studio, the spare bedroom I'd converted, when Josh came in. He looked serious. Worried. "Mom, we need to talk." My stomach dropped. About what? About Daniel. Oh God. He knew. Somehow he knew. He's been acting weird. Won't return my calls. Won't tell me what's wrong. And you've been acting weird too. Did something happen between you two? Did he do something? The concern in his voice made it worse. He was worried about me. Worried that Daniel had hurt me. If only he knew. Nothing happened, I said. Another lie. So many lies. We just had a disagreement. It'll blow over. A disagreement about what? Adult stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. Josh studied me. My son. My baby. Almost a man now. You're lying to me, he said quietly. I don't know about what, but you're lying. I couldn't look at him. Couldn't face the disappointment in his eyes. Sometimes adults have to keep things private. It doesn't mean I don't love you. But it means you don't trust me. He left the room, and I heard his door slam. Everything was falling apart. My relationship with Josh. My marriage. My affair. I was losing everyone while trying to hold on to everyone. That night, I made a decision. I called Daniel. He answered on the fourth ring. Claire. Just my name, but spoken with such longing it made my chest ache. I can't do this anymore, I said. I can't keep living this lie. I can't keep hurting everyone. What are you saying? I'm saying we need to end this. For real this time. No more contact. No more stolen moments. It's over. Silence on the other end. Then, do you love me? You know I do. And I love you. So why are we doing this? Why are we giving up on something real because other people won't understand? Because sometimes love isn't enough. Because I have a son who needs his mother. Because you're 23 years old with your whole life ahead of you, and I'm a 42-year-old married woman with responsibilities and consequences. So that's it? You're choosing them over us? I'm choosing to stop destroying everyone's lives. Including yours. You're not destroying my life. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Today I am. But in 5 years? 10 years? You'll resent me. You'll resent missing out on dating people your own age. You'll resent the scandal and the judgment and the way people look at us. And I'll resent being the reason you threw away your youth. You don't get to decide that for me. Yes, I do. Because I'm the adult here. I'm the one who should have known better from the start. I'm the one who let this happen. Claire, please. Goodbye, Daniel. I'm sorry. For all of it. But goodbye. I hung up before he could respond. Before I could change my mind. Then I sat on the floor of my studio and cried until I had nothing left. Richard found me there an hour later. He sat down beside me without saying anything, just handed me a tissue and waited. I need to tell you something, I said. My voice was raw from crying. My heart was raw from everything. I know, he said quietly. The words stopped in my throat. You know? I'm not stupid, Claire. Maybe I've been absent, maybe I've been a terrible husband, but I'm not blind. You've been different for months. Happier, then sadder. Distracted. Guilty. He looked at me with tired eyes. There's someone else, isn't there? I couldn't lie anymore. I was so tired of lying. Yes. He nodded slowly, like he'd been expecting it. Do you love him? The question hurt more than anger would have. I did. I do. But it's over now. Did you sleep with him? Yes. Richard stood up and walked to the window. His shoulders were tight, his hands clenched. How long? A few months. Who is he? This was it. The moment everything would truly shatter. It doesn't matter. It's over. It matters to me. He turned around, and I saw tears in his eyes. Richard, who never cried. Richard, who never showed emotion. Who is he, Claire? I can't tell you that. It would only make things worse. Worse than knowing my wife has been cheating on me for months? Worse than knowing she loves someone else? How could it possibly be worse? He was right. The truth was already destroying us. The details were just footnotes to the devastation. Daniel, I whispered. His name is Daniel. Richard's face went blank with confusion. Then understanding dawned. Daniel? Josh's Daniel? His best friend? I nodded, watching my husband process this. Watching him realize just how deep the betrayal went. He's 23 years old, Richard said slowly. He's practically a child. He's not a child. He's young enough to be. Richard stopped, the full horror settling in. Jesus Christ, Claire. Josh's best friend? In our house? While our son was here? I'm sorry. Sorry? Richard's voice rose for the first time. Sorry? You slept with our son's best friend and you're sorry? I know there's nothing I can say that will make this better. You're right. There isn't. He paced the room like a caged animal. How did this even happen? When did you become someone who would do this? I don't know, I admitted. I was invisible for so long. I was disappearing. And then someone saw me. Really saw me. And I couldn't resist it. So this is my fault? Because I worked too much? Because I wasn't attentive enough? That's your excuse for sleeping with a kid young enough to be your son? He's not a kid. And no, it's not your fault. It's mine. All mine. I made the choice. I knew it was wrong and I did it anyway. Richard sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. I want a divorce. The words shouldn't have hurt. I'd known they were coming. But hearing them still felt like a knife to the chest. Okay, I said. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, I'll talk to a lawyer. I want you out of this house within a month. What about Josh? What about him? You should have thought about Josh before you decided to destroy this family. Richard stood up, and the man I'd been married to for 20 years looked at me like I was a stranger. Like I was something disgusting he'd found on his shoe. I'll tell him we're getting divorced. But I won't tell him why. That's your burden to carry. You get to decide whether to destroy your relationship with your son on top of everything else. He left the room, and I was alone with the wreckage of my life. Josh came home the next day to find his father packing clothes into suitcases. What's going on? I stood in the doorway, watching my son's world fall apart. Your dad and I are getting divorced. The color drained from Josh's face. What? Why? Richard looked at me, a challenge in his eyes. Tell him. Tell him what you did. But I couldn't. I couldn't watch Josh look at me with the same disgust his father had. Couldn't watch our relationship die along with my marriage. We've grown apart, I said. The coward's answer. The lie that was somehow also true. Sometimes people fall out of love. But you were fine. You were trying. Dad's been home more. You were going to dinners together. Josh looked between us desperately. This doesn't make sense. Your mother had an affair, Richard said flatly. Dad, don't, I started. She has a right to know the truth. You had an affair, Claire. Tell him. Josh stared at me. Is that true? I nodded, shame burning through me. With who? It doesn't matter. With Daniel, Richard said. Your best friend. Time stopped. Josh's face went through a series of emotions so fast I couldn't track them all. Confusion. Disbelief. Understanding. Horror. Betrayal. Rage. Daniel? Josh's voice was barely a whisper. My Daniel? Josh, I'm so sorry. My best friend? My mom is sleeping with my best friend? His voice rose to a shout. Are you insane? Are you disgusting? He's my age. I know. You don't know anything. Josh screamed. You destroyed our family for some guy I brought into this house. Some guy I trusted. How long? How long has this been going on? A few months. Months? Josh looked like he might be sick. Months of lying to me? Months of him being here, eating our food, playing video games in my room, while he was sleeping with my mother? It wasn't like that. What was it like then, Mom? Tell me. Make me understand how you could do this. How you could betray everyone who loves you for a kid barely older than me. I had no answer. No explanation that would make sense. No words that would undo the damage. I hate you, Josh said, and the words cut deeper than anything Richard had said. I will never forgive you for this. Never. He ran from the room. A minute later, I heard his car peel out of the driveway. Richard finished packing in silence. Before he left, he turned to me one last time. I wasted 20 years on you. 20 years I'll never get back. And for what? So you could throw it all away on some boy who'll be gone in a year when he realizes what everyone else already knows. You're pathetic. Then he was gone too. I stood in my empty house, surrounded by the ruins of everything I'd built, and understood what I'd truly lost. Not just my marriage. Not just my son's respect. But my integrity. My sense of self. The person I thought I was. For what? For a few months of feeling alive? For stolen moments with someone who made me feel seen? Was it worth it? I didn't know. God help me, I still didn't know. My phone rang. Daniel. I stared at it, knowing I shouldn't answer. Knowing nothing good could come from this conversation. I answered anyway. I heard, he said. Josh called me. He's at my apartment. He's a mess, Claire. He's talking about never speaking to you again. I know. He called me a predator. Said I took advantage of you. Said he never wants to see me again either. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. Daniel's voice cracked. This isn't your fault. It's both of ours. We made this choice together. You lost your best friend because of me. I lost my best friend because we fell in love in a situation that was impossible from the start. I don't regret loving you, Claire. I regret that the world isn't built for people like us. I regret that we have to hide and lie and destroy everything just to be together. But I don't regret you. You should. Well, I don't. And I won't. What we had was real. It was beautiful. It was the most honest thing I've ever felt. It was a fantasy. And now we're living in reality, and reality is ugly. So what do we do now? Now I lose everything. My marriage. My son. My home. My reputation. And you move on with your life. You find someone your own age. You forget about the messed up 42-year-old woman who ruined everything. I don't want to move on. I want you. You can't have me. Not anymore. It's over, Daniel. It has to be over. Claire. I have to go. Take care of Josh for me. Be the friend he needs. And forget about me. I hung up and turned off my phone. The next weeks were a blur. Richard moved into a hotel. Josh refused to speak to me, even to arrange getting his belongings from the house. He sent friends to pack his room while I was out. Daniel stopped calling after a while. I hired a lawyer. Started the divorce proceedings. Put the house on the market. Began the practical business of dismantling a 20-year marriage. I painted. Hours and hours of painting. Canvases filled with dark colors and sharp edges and all the pain I couldn't express any other way. My sister came to visit. She was the only family member I'd told the truth. You did a terrible thing, she said bluntly. But that doesn't make you a terrible person. It makes you human. Josh would disagree. Josh is 19 and processing betrayal for the first time in his life. Give him time. What if he never forgives me? Then you live with that. You accept the consequences of your choices and you find a way to move forward anyway. How? She looked at my paintings. At the raw emotion bleeding through every canvas. You already know how. You're doing it. After she left, I stood in my studio and really looked at what I'd created. Dozens of paintings. Real, powerful, honest work. The best I'd ever done. From destruction came creation. From pain came art. From the ashes of my old life, something new was emerging. I sold 3 paintings to a gallery. Then 5 more. Then 10. Word spread. Claire Henderson, the emerging artist. Nobody knew I was also Claire Henderson, the woman who'd destroyed her family. In the art world, I could just be Claire. Just myself. 6 months after everything fell apart, I moved into a small apartment downtown. 1 bedroom. A tiny studio space. Barely room for furniture. But it was mine. Not Richard's. Not my son's. Mine. I'd lost everything. My marriage was legally over. Josh still wouldn't speak to me beyond the bare minimum required for practical matters. My old friends had taken sides, and most had chosen Richard. I was alone in a way I'd never been before. But I was also free. Free from a marriage that had been dead for years. Free from pretending to be someone I wasn't. Free from the suffocating weight of other people's expectations. At night, when the loneliness threatened to crush me, I wondered about Daniel. What he was doing. If he thought about me. If he'd found someone else. I hoped he had. He deserved happiness, not the complicated mess I'd brought into his life. Then one day, 9 months after I'd last seen him, there was a knock on my apartment door. Daniel stood in the hallway, looking older somehow. More settled. More sure of himself. "Hi," he said. "Hi," I managed. My heart was racing like it always had around him. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside, and he entered my small space. He looked at my paintings, at the evidence of my transformation. "These are incredible," he said softly. "You're really doing it. Living your dream." I didn't have much choice. I burned down my old life pretty thoroughly. We both did. He turned to face me. I came to tell you something. I'm moving. Got accepted to a graduate program in Boston. Philosophy PhD. Daniel, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. Are you? Because I almost didn't apply. I almost stayed here, hoping that somehow, someday, we could try again. My chest tightened. Daniel. But I realized something. You were right. We needed to let each other go. Not because what we felt wasn't real, but because the timing was wrong. The circumstances were wrong. We were right, but everything else was wrong. I'm sorry, I said, for what felt like the thousandth time. Stop apologizing. I'm not here for an apology. I'm here to say thank you. Thank you. For showing me what real connection feels like. For teaching me that passion and depth and honesty exist. For being brave enough to feel something real, even when it was wrong. Because of you, I'll never settle for less than that feeling. Because of you, I know what I'm looking for. Tears streamed down my face. I hope you find it. With someone who's right for you. Someone who doesn't come with impossible complications. I hope you find it too. And I hope Josh forgives you someday. He's talking to me again, by the way. Took him 8 months, but he finally answered my call. Is he okay? He's hurt. He's angry. But he's processing it. He started therapy. And he asked about you last week. Asked if I knew how you were doing. Hope bloomed in my chest, fragile and painful. What did you tell him? I told him you were surviving. That you were painting. That you'd lost everything but you were still standing. And I think, maybe, he was glad to hear it. Daniel moved toward the door, then stopped. Can I ask you something? Do you regret it? Us? I thought about everything I'd lost. Everything I'd gained. The destruction and the creation. The pain and the growth. I regret the hurt I caused. I regret the lies. I regret the consequences. But us? No. I'll never regret us. You woke me up, Daniel. You reminded me I was alive. And I'll be grateful for that until the day I die. He smiled, sad and beautiful. Me too. Goodbye, Claire. Goodbye, Daniel. After he left, I stood in my tiny apartment and realized something. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for Josh's forgiveness, though I hoped for it. Not for a new relationship to fill the void. Not for permission to be happy. I was 43 years old. I'd made terrible choices. I'd hurt people I loved. I'd destroyed everything I'd built. But I was still here. Still creating. Still feeling. Still alive. At 42, I discovered a forbidden love that should never have happened. It destroyed my life. But it also saved it. 1 year later, Josh called me. Just to talk. Not about what happened. Not about Daniel. Just normal conversation. 5 minutes of awkward small talk that felt like the greatest gift I'd ever received. Can I see your painting sometime? He asked before hanging up. Anytime, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Anytime you want. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a door opening. A possibility. A hope. I hung up and looked at my newest painting. A woman standing in ruins, arms open wide, face turned to the sun. Destroyed and rebuilt. Broken and whole. Ashamed and proud. Me. At 42, I fell in love with someone I shouldn't have. I made choices I couldn't take back. I lost everything I thought defined me. And somehow, in the wreckage, I found myself. Was it worth it? I still don't know. Maybe I'll never know. But I'm here. I'm real. I'm alive in a way I never was in my perfect, suffocating, dead marriage. And maybe that's all any of us can ask for. To feel something real. To be truly seen. To be alive, even when it costs us everything. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story without judgment. Or maybe you are judging me. Maybe you should. I judged myself for months. I still do sometimes. But I also know this: life is short and complicated and messy. We make mistakes. We hurt people. We fall in love in all the wrong ways at all the wrong times. And sometimes, just sometimes, those mistakes lead us exactly where we needed to be. Subscribe if you want more honest, raw, real stories. Leave a comment telling me I'm terrible or brave or stupid or all of the above. I can take it. After everything, I can take anything. Because I'm still here. Still standing. Still painting. Still hoping. And that's something.